New at 5:30, a developing story in Jonesboro. One person is dead after a trench collapsed on a worker at a construction site in Jonesboro. Crews were building a trench on East Johnson Avenue when the wall collapsed, trapping 2 workers underneath. We're told the other worker who was trapped was rescued and taken to the hospital. No word on that person's condition tonight.
A Fox 16 News update. An England police officer is deemed in the right after an arrest took social media by storm. The video released by the Thomas family last week shows their uncle, Elijah Thomas, being dragged across the street by Officer Chris Holmes. Our Jessica Rank's been following the story since the very beginning. She joins us live. And Jessica, obviously still a lot of questions out there, but help us fill in some of the blanks here.
Yeah, Kevin, if you guys will remember my interview with the Thomas family last week, their biggest concern was about the suspect, Elijah Thomas, and his mental state, saying that things should have been handled differently given the circumstances. Well, today we're getting a closer look at that body cam footage that was released by England PD, and they say after reviewing that this is more of a criminal case than a mental health case.
He's dragging my uncle across the street.
A night filled with emotion and concern leaves several questions about how this arrest played out in England.
He was getting drugged like he was a dog.
Nearly a week after this interview with the Thomas family, our station is getting a look through a second lens.
This is not a mental health case. This was a criminal side of it.
England Police Chief Bill Durrison says he believes the body cam footage of this arrest shows the officer was in the right. As the tape begins, Officer Holmes is seen approaching Elijah Thomas outside a laundromat.
It's kind of common knowledge to us that we'll carry on a conversation with him first to kind of gauge where he's at.
Durrison says Elijah Thomas is known to have a mental illness and his officers are trained to detect it.
I hate saying it like this, but he was in his right mind.
Moments later, the officer tells Thomas about a warrant out for his arrest.
Hold on one second, okay?
Thomas takes off and is arrested. We hear several times the officer telling Elijah to stand up. And it's at this moment mental health comes into question.
He has a problem, and we're trying to tell you that.
Family says Elijah wasn't in his right mind. Police say he was, and therefore deemed it passive resistance.
You don't grab them by their handcuffs. You don't grab them by their elbow. You place one arm underneath at the armpit and grab with the other and hold their body weight up. And that's exactly what Officer Holmes did.
Chief Durrison says officers need to protect themselves and the person being arrested.
In a situation like that, that's rapidly evolving with more and more participants and the lack of backup, Officer Holmes had one single thought: get him to the car. That is a safe spot.
Chief Durrison told me today that he says if the officer would have believed this to be a mental health crisis, the situation would have been handled differently. Family would have been called and possibly an ambulance. Now, Officer Holmes is still facing disciplinary action for some of the language that he used during that arrest. And the chief here tells me that Officer Holmes will go through a mandatory de-escalation training. That's the very latest out here in England. I'm Jessica Rank for Fox 16 News.